The personal English staff members have been participating in training courses on dyslexia and special educational needs since 2019, when we invited Ms. Paola Eleonora Fontoni, a pioneer of special educational needs in Italy, for an 8-hour training course on the basics of special educational needs teaching strategies. I also started conducting extensive research on the subject and co-wrote with Chiara Savoldi, medical doctor, and Francesca Zerbi, psychologist, a booklet on dyslexia and special educational needs published by Personal English and downloadable for free from the Personal English LinkedIn page. Since then, I have been working with a number of young learners diagnosed with cognitive disorders. I have found that, more often than not, most of these learners' difficulties arise from a combination of low attention span and low self-esteem. The attention span is something a learner develops during the early childhood, and which the Montessori education focuses on through activities like pouring and transferring, for example. A child might fail to develop the attention span over those years because of overstimulation, very common in nowadays a highly digitalized society, and the lack of the habit to bring games and activities to a conclusion. Developing attention span later on in life proved demanding and may never reach the same extent as one may aspire to when pursued in due time. Accordingly, we supplement the learner's attention by means of a number of color-coding strategies which help the learner visualize and mnemonically process language patterns. In some cases, drilling, that is, the repetition with variation of a given structure, may also suit some learning profiles and help them jog their memory. Multisensory teaching may also be of help for the sake of memorization, insofar as Maria Montessori formulated more than 100 years ago, learning something by doing and or experiencing it triggers emotions as well, thus making the notion more memorable. So, learning the names of sounds in English by making a fully artist-inspired video about them may help a young learner retain those words effortlessly, thanks to the memory hook provided by the learning by doing approach. The two criticalities of special educational needs learners I have pointed out are the low attention span and the low self-esteem. Now that we have addressed how to tackle the attention-related issues, I'd like to briefly touch upon self-esteem. At Personal English, we truly believe that learning is 50% cognition and 50% psychology. As smart, talented, and gifted as you may be, smartness will get you nowhere if you don't believe you are actually smart, talented, and gifted. What we do during classes to increase the learner's attention span, then, is just the tip of the iceberg. The biggest part of the work to be done is at home and needs to be done by the young learner's family. Without their involvement, anything we may do will just be a drop in the bucket. We endeavor to be in contact with learners' parents on a weekly basis to update them on the learner's progress and to give suggestions regarding what to do at home. This very often means reminding parents to make sure that their kids are properly listened to, given positive reinforcement, and encouraged using the communication strategy most suitable to the kid's personality profile. Without their cooperation on this aspect, the results will be fated to be modest. Finally, an important aspect to touch upon. In Italy, we talk about strumenti compensativi and misure dispensative, whereas in English, we talk about educational accommodations. This difference in definition bears witness to a difference in stance, and when it comes to this, at Personal English, we're more aligned with the English than with the Italian stance. Compensation and dispensation smack of removing the obstacles from a kid's path, which we don't think will eventually prepare them for real life. Kids need to learn to overcome obstacles, not to sidestep them. Accordingly, we're not fans of compensatory and dispensatory measures. Rather, we endeavor to pursue with the learner the same goals set to the typical learner, so to speak, but by finding their own way to reach it. Whereas many therapists are largely in favor of dispensatory measures, which means exempting SEN kids from cursive handwriting, reading aloud, and so on, we do believe that radical exemption will be counterproductive, and we still do these activities with learners to different extents, depending on the psychological or learning profile of each of them. In effect, at Personal English, we draw no clear-cut line between special educational needs learners and standard learners. We think every learner is different and unique because of numberless factors that determine their cognitive and psychological profile. Accordingly, we make sure to set a reachable goal for each of them without necessarily lowering the bar in terms of ambition. The means to reach the goal will be different though, as a tracker may choose to take one path or another to make it to the top of the same mountain. One final note on working with adults who show similar difficulties as young learners diagnosed with learning disorders. The fact that they may or may not be diagnosed makes no difference to us. The moment when we detect a difficulty, we immediately implement teaching and memory strategies that may help that specific learner achieve improvement by overcoming those difficulties. Because for Personal English teachers, there is no standard learner and no standard curriculum to follow, but everything is learner-centered and customized.